Stop. Just stop scrolling, right there. Freeze your thumb, because what I'm about to tell you didn't find you by accident. You know that feeling, that knowing when something cuts through the noise and speaks directly to the most hidden part of your soul? That flutter in your chest right now? That sudden awareness that you were meant to see this message at this exact second? That's not the algorithm, beloved. That's heaven. My name is irrelevant. What matters is that I'm a messenger. And you're about to discover why this message found you 72 hours before Monday. Not Tuesday. Not last week. Before Monday. Because Monday isn't just another date on your calendar. It's a threshold, a hinge point between what was and what's about to be. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. This isn't motivation. This isn't inspiration to get you through your day. This is a divine interruption, and if you scroll past this moment, something sacred will close that may never open again. Ecclesiastes 3:1 tells us, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." God doesn't speak after the moment passes. He speaks before the movement begins. Right now, heaven is holding its breath over your life. The train is slowing before your station. And what unfolds on Monday will explain things you've been questioning for years. Before we go deeper, let me pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving. You're sowing seeds that spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your time, your attention, your open heart, it all matters. And if this message already resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. But here's what's gripping my spirit right now. There are 3 things unfolding on Monday. 3 spiritual realities converging on one day. And one of them, just one, explains why your life stalled when it should have soared. Why doors slammed when they should have opened. Why you felt stuck in a season that was supposed to be temporary. You're sitting in a courtroom right now, and Monday is when the verdict gets read. Not a verdict of condemnation, a verdict of release. If something in your chest is already stirring, if your spirit recognizes this before your mind can explain it, don't analyze it. Don't dismiss it. Just acknowledge it. Type below right now, "I'm listening," because what I'm about to reveal in the next few minutes will change how you see Monday, how you understand your waiting, and why you've been positioned exactly where you are for such a time as this. The interruption has begun, and chosen one, you're about to discover that being interrupted by God is the greatest gift you never knew you needed. Why does it feel like God stopped answering? Why have the prayers that used to flow like rivers now feel like they're hitting a concrete ceiling? Why does everyone else seem to be moving forward while you're standing still, watching your own life fade into background noise? Let me tell you something that might crack your chest wide open. That silence you've been sitting in, that deafening quiet that wakes you up at 3 a.m. wondering if heaven forgot your address, it's not what you think it is. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? There was a time when you felt God's presence like warmth on your skin. When you prayed, you knew He was listening. When you worshipped, something moved in your spirit. But somewhere along the way, the signal went dead. The line went quiet. And you've been whispering into the void ever since, wondering what you did wrong. Maybe it started 5 years ago. Maybe 10. Maybe it's been so long you can't even remember what His voice sounds like anymore. Your children call less. Your spouse doesn't understand you. The church you served faithfully for decades suddenly feels cold and distant. Even your prayers, oh God, even your prayers, they leave your lips and seem to evaporate before they reach the ceiling. You've started believing lies, haven't you? I'm too old now. God's moved on to younger people with bigger faith. My season is over. I missed my moment. Stop right there. What if I told you that silence isn't abandonment, it's assignment? What if the quiet wasn't God leaving you, but God focusing on you with such laser precision that He had to remove every distraction, every voice, every noise that would interfere with what He's about to do? Listen to Job's cry in chapter 23, verses 8 through 10. This man, this righteous, suffering man said, I go forward, but he is not there, and backward, but I cannot perceive him. When he works on the left hand, I cannot behold him. When he turns to the right hand, I cannot see him. But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I shall come forth as gold. Do you hear that? Job couldn't see God, couldn't feel God, couldn't perceive God anywhere. But God knew exactly where Job was, and that testing, that unbearable silence, was producing something more valuable than comfort. It was producing gold. You've been in the refiner's fire, beloved, and the refiner never takes his eyes off the gold. He watches it closer during the heating than he ever did before. The silence you're experiencing isn't God looking away. It's God leaning in, so close that his breath is heating the very thing he's about to purify. Think about winter soil. Dead, right? Cold, lifeless, nothing growing. But ask any farmer what's happening beneath that frozen ground. Roots are deepening, seeds are breaking open, nutrients are building. That soil isn't dead, it's preparing. And when spring comes, what emerges is stronger than anything summer could produce. You've been living in winter, dear one, but Monday marks the shift. Psalm 66:10 says it plainly. For you, O God, tested us. You refined us like silver, not punished, not abandoned, refined. And silver doesn't get refined in a moment. It requires sustained heat, patient watching, and strategic silence. Here's what breaks my heart. While you've been interpreting God's silence as rejection, He's been orchestrating the most intricate season of your entire life. He closed doors you were desperate to walk through, not because you weren't worthy, but because what's on the other side of Monday would have been destroyed by premature exposure. That relationship that ended when you needed it most. God removed it because it would have sabotaged what He's about to give you. That financial door that slammed shut. He was protecting you from a trap disguised as opportunity. That prayer you've been praying for 20 years that still hasn't been answered. He's been compounding the blessing with interest you can't even fathom yet. The silence was necessary because what's coming cannot survive noise. You can't build a foundation during an earthquake. You can't hear a whisper in a hurricane. And you can't receive a God-sized assignment while you're still distracted by everything that felt important but wasn't actually essential. God didn't go quiet because He was done with you. He went quiet because He was preparing you for something so massive, so unprecedented, so beyond your current capacity, that He had to strip away everything that would have interfered with your ability to receive it. That's why your friends list got shorter. That's why certain people who used to fill your calendar suddenly disappeared. That's why you felt isolated even in crowded rooms. God was strategically removing voices that would have talked you out of what He's about to talk you into. And here's the urgency you need to grasp right now. The refinement is complete. The winter is ending. The silence is about to break. But if you're not paying attention when Monday arrives, you'll miss the sound of the door opening. If you've been walking through a quiet season, if you've felt forgotten, overlooked, or left behind, let heaven know you're still here. Type below, still here. Because chosen one, your silence wasn't the end of your story. It was the editing of your story. And what's about to unfold on Monday will prove that every moment of waiting was preparing you for this exact moment of breakthrough. But the question burning in the spiritual realm right now is this. Do you trust that God's silence was purposeful enough to keep watching, to keep believing, to keep standing? You know what nobody tells you about Monday. It's not just the day your alarm clock screams you back to reality. It's not just the end of your weekend freedom. Monday, in the biblical pattern, in the rhythm of heaven itself, Monday is the return to assignment. It's the day God repositioned creation after rest. The day humanity went back to stewarding Eden. The day disciples returned to their nets before Jesus called them out forever. And beloved, what you do on Monday, how you show up emotionally, spiritually, relationally on Monday, it sets the frequency for everything that follows. But here's what's gripping my spirit right now, and I need you to hear this with everything in you. Most people miss Monday entirely. Not because they sleep through it, not because they're not physically present. They miss it because Monday doesn't arrive with trumpets and angels. It doesn't look spiritual. It looks ordinary. And that's exactly how the enemy wants it. Think about Esau for a moment. Genesis 25, one ordinary day, one bowl of stew, one decision that felt insignificant in the moment. He was tired, he was hungry. He looked at his birthright, this invisible, future, spiritual inheritance, and he looked at the soup in front of him, hot, real, immediate. And he traded eternity for comfort. The Bible says he despised his birthright, not because he hated it, but because he couldn't see it. It wasn't tangible enough. It wasn't Monday enough. It was too spiritual for a Monday transaction. How many of you have traded something eternal for something immediate? How many times have you chosen the comfortable conversation over the confrontational truth? The easy path over the anointed one? The familiar dysfunction over the frightening freedom? That wasn't weakness, dear one. That was a Monday you didn't recognize. Or consider this, Luke 19:44. Jesus is weeping over Jerusalem, and he says something that should shatter every believer who's ever felt like they missed their moment. He says, "They will dash you to the ground, you and the children within your walls. They will not leave one stone on another, because you did not recognize the time of God's coming to you." Did you catch that? You did not recognize the time. Not you weren't chosen. Not you weren't worthy. You didn't recognize the moment when heaven showed up wearing work clothes. That's the Monday warning, chosen one. Divine visitation doesn't always look divine. Sometimes it looks like an ordinary decision, a mundane conversation, a regular Monday that you almost slept through spiritually. Right now, some of you are feeling something you can't name, a stirring, a knowing. That's not anxiety, that's recognition. Your spirit is waking up to the fact that this coming Monday isn't ordinary. It's a hinge point. And what you do with it will either propel you forward or keep you circling the same mountain for another year. Think about the 5 virgins in Matthew 25. They had the same invitation as the wise ones. They showed up to the same wedding. They carried the same lamps. But their oil ran low. And when the bridegroom came, not with a billboard announcement, not with a week's notice, but in the middle of an ordinary night, they weren't ready. And the door closed. Here's what haunts me about that parable. They didn't reject the bridegroom. They didn't deny the faith. They just ran out of oil at the wrong time. They missed the moment because they thought they had more time to prepare. Is your oil running low right now? Are you coasting on last year's anointing? Are you living off the spiritual momentum of a season that ended months ago, convincing yourself that you're fine because you haven't completely crashed yet? That alarm clock that's been ringing in your spirit for weeks, that restlessness, that dissatisfaction, that holy discomfort with where you are, that's not condemnation, that's preparation. God is sounding the alarm before Monday arrives because he knows something you don't see yet. This Monday, something shifts, not in the world, in the spiritual atmosphere over your life. Doors that have been sealed are cracking open. Voices that have been silent are about to speak. Assignments that have been delayed are being released. But here's the warning I cannot soften, the truth I cannot sugarcoat. If you approach Monday the way you've approached every other Monday, distracted, disconnected, dragging yesterday's defeats into tomorrow's opportunities, you will miss it. You will walk right past your burning bush because you're too busy complaining about the desert. How many burning bushes have you walked past because they looked like regular bushes? Most people miss Monday because it doesn't arrive in a chariot of fire. It arrives in your kitchen, in your commute, in the ordinary rhythm of your Wednesday that happens to fall on a Monday. And if you're not spiritually alert, if your oil isn't fresh, if your heart isn't postured to recognize heaven in work clothes, you'll trade your birthright for comfort again. But not this time, not this Monday, because I'm about to show you exactly what not to do when Monday comes. And beloved, most people, even believers, even chosen ones, get this devastatingly wrong. Stay with me. The final revelation is coming, and it will explain why your waiting has felt so long and why it's about to end. You feel it, don't you? That restlessness in your chest, that low hum of expectation mixed with dread. You're waiting for Monday like it's going to arrive with trumpets and thunder, with signs so obvious even your neighbor will see them. But what if I told you that the most dangerous assumption you could make right now is believing you'll know when the moment comes? Let me ask you something that might sting. What if Monday has already started and you've been failing the test since the moment you clicked on this message? See, chosen one, here's what nobody wants to tell you because it's uncomfortable, because it confronts the very foundation of how we think faith works. The test God is giving you right now isn't about belief. You already believe. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. The test, the real test, is about your response when heaven moves in whispers instead of shouts. Think about your life right now. How many times have you prayed for breakthrough, begged God for a sign, cried out for direction? And then when He answered in stillness, you called it silence. When He moved subtly, you called it coincidence. When He whispered next steps, you waited for a loudspeaker. That's the test, beloved. Not, do you have faith? But, can you respond when the answer doesn't look like you expected? Hebrews 3:15 cuts straight to the bone. Today, if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts. Not tomorrow, not Monday. Today, right now, this moment. The test is whether you can hear what's being spoken in the language of the Spirit, instead of demanding it be translated into the language of your impatience. Let me paint you a picture. You plant a seed in good soil, rich, dark earth. You water it, you wait. But nothing happens on day 1, nothing visible on day 2. By day 7, you're questioning if the seed was even real. By day 14, you're bitter. I did everything right, you mutter. Where's my harvest? But beneath the surface, in the hidden places you can't see, roots are spreading. Life is forming. The miracle is happening in the dark. The soil isn't rejecting your seed, dear one. But are you rejecting the process because it doesn't perform on your timeline? Here's what breaks my heart. I've watched people stand at the edge of their breakthrough and walk away because God's timing didn't match their desperation. I've seen chosen ones get the whisper from heaven, clear as a bell, and then talk themselves out of it because it seemed too small, too quiet, too ordinary. You wanted a burning bush. God gave you a still, small voice. You wanted the Red Sea to part with crowds watching. God gave you a narrow door that only you could see. You wanted validation from people. God gave you confirmation in your spirit. And you almost missed it because you were waiting for something bigger. Think about the Israelites circling Jericho. 6 days of walking in complete silence. No war cries, no celebrations, just obedience in the quiet. Can you imagine the doubt creeping in? Are we just walking in circles? Is this really God's plan, or are we being foolish? But the test wasn't their faith in God's power, it was their willingness to obey when obedience looked ridiculous. The walls didn't fall on day 1 because they believed hard enough. The walls fell on day 7 because they passed the test of faithfulness in the silence. Right now, you're in your circle. You're in that quiet obedience phase where nothing looks different. Your bank account hasn't changed. Your health report still says the same thing. Your family situation looks identical. And a voice in your head is screaming, "This isn't working." But what if it's working in ways you can't measure yet? What if Monday isn't about everything changing? What if Monday is about you discovering that something already changed, and you're just now catching up to what God did while you were busy doubting? Let me ask you something raw and real. Are you resentful? Deep down, beneath the prayers and the praise, is there a quiet anger at God for making you wait this long, for not answering faster, for letting others seem to get their miracles while you're still standing in the same spot you were standing in 5 years ago? That resentment, beloved, that's the test revealing itself. Because the test isn't, will you praise God when He blesses you? Anybody can do that. The test is, will you trust Him in the gap between the promise and the manifestation? Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before God called him to deliver Israel. 40 years of thinking his purpose had died in Egypt. 40 years of wondering if he'd misheard God's voice. But those 40 years weren't wasted time, they were the test. And when Monday came, when that burning bush moment finally arrived, Moses was ready not because he was perfect, but because he'd learned to live in the tension of unanswered questions. Here's the mystery that will either liberate you or offend you. The test ends before you realize it started. Monday isn't when the test begins. Monday is when the results are revealed. And what happens on Monday will be a direct reflection of how you responded today, yesterday, this week, this month, in all the moments when heaven seemed quiet. You've been taking the exam this whole time. Every moment you chose trust over complaint. Every morning you got up and prayed, even when it felt like your prayers hit the ceiling. Every time you obeyed that small nudge in your spirit, even though it made no logical sense. Those weren't random acts of faith, those were test questions, and you've been answering them. So here's my question for you, and let it settle deep. Are you willing to pass this test quietly? Are you willing to let God move on his timeline instead of demanding he bend to yours? Are you willing to respond to whispers the same way you would to thunder? If you are, if you're ready to stop rushing God and start trusting his rhythm, type below right now, I won't rush. Because what I'm about to show you next will reveal exactly what happens when someone passes this hidden test, and why Monday is about to make perfect sense. You want to know why you're still stuck? Why, after all the prayers, all the fasting, all the believing, nothing's moved? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. It's not that God forgot you, it's that he's been waiting for you to stop fighting him. See, you thought Monday was just another day. Another sunrise, another 24 hours of the same routine that's been grinding you down for months, maybe years. But I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. Monday is not about what happens. Monday is about what aligns. And when alignment happens, beloved, movement is inevitable. Think about a lock. You can push on a door with all your strength. You can throw your shoulder against it until you're bruised and bleeding. You can scream at it, curse at it, beg it to open. But until that lock clicks, until every tumbler falls into its precise position, that door will not budge. Not 1 inch. You've been pushing, God's been positioning. You've been crying, why not now? Heaven's been whispering, not yet ready. Habakkuk 2-3 says it plainly. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Did you catch that holy contradiction? It tarries, but it won't tarry. It delays, but it's right on time. How can both be true? Because God's timing isn't about your calendar, it's about your capacity. Let me ask you something that might sting. How many times have you begged God for something you weren't ready to steward? How many times did you cry out for promotion when you hadn't learned submission? How many times did you demand the promise when your character couldn't contain it? I'm not talking about worthiness. You were made worthy by the blood of Jesus. I'm talking about readiness. There's a difference between being qualified by grace and being prepared for assignment. And God, in his infinite mercy, will not give you what will destroy you. So he held you still. That job you didn't get 3 years ago, the one that went to someone less experienced, less dedicated, you called it rejection. Heaven called it protection. That relationship that fell apart when you thought it was God's will, you called it heartbreak. The Almighty called it course correction. That business opportunity that evaporated overnight, you called it failure. Your Father called it redirection. Every closed door wasn't God saying no to you. It was God saying not yet to the version of you who wasn't ready for what was behind it. But something shifted while you were in the stillness. Something you couldn't see, couldn't measure, couldn't track on any earthly timeline. Like a river deep beneath the surface, slowly, imperceptibly changing direction, your spirit has been realigning. Your heart has been recalibrating. Your faith has been maturing in the dark places where no one was watching. And Monday? Monday is when the underground river breaks through to the surface. Here's what most people don't understand about divine timing. God doesn't move you until He trusts you with stillness. He doesn't accelerate your life until you've learned to be faithful in the parking lot. He doesn't open the floodgates until you've proven you can worship in the drought. You think you've been waiting on God? Chosen one, God's been waiting on you, waiting for you to stop thrashing, waiting for you to stop forcing, waiting for you to finally surrender control and say, your will, not mine. Your timing, not mine. Your way, even when I can't see it. That surrender you whispered last Tuesday at 2 a.m. when you couldn't sleep, when you stopped demanding and started trusting. Heaven took notice. Angels leaned in. The Father nodded and said, now they're ready. Think about a scale. For years it's been tipping back and forth, faith on one side, fear on the other, hope here, doubt there. One day you're up, the next you're down. But recently, something changed. The weight started shifting. Not dramatically, not all at once, but steadily, consistently, the scale has been balancing. And Monday is when it tips permanently in your favor. I can feel some of you right now, tears streaming down your face, because this is explaining the last 6 months, the last year, the last decade of your life. You couldn't understand why God was silent when you were screaming. You couldn't comprehend why heaven seemed locked when you needed it most. You thought you were being punished. You were being prepared. Every unanswered prayer was answered, just not the way you expected. Every delay was actually divine protection. Every no was heaven saying, I have something better, but you're not ready yet. Trust me. Wait for it. It's coming. And it is coming, beloved. It is coming. Monday isn't just another day. It's the day alignment becomes movement. It's the day the underground river surfaces. It's the day the scale tips. It's the day the lock finally clicks open. If this explains your last season, if this is why you've been stuck when you should have been soaring, if this is the answer to questions you've been asking God in the dark, type it right now. Now I understand. Because understanding is the bridge between where you've been and where you're going. And what you're about to discover next will show you exactly what unfolds when alignment meets appointment, when preparation meets opportunity, when your faithfulness in the stillness finally meets God's movement in the suddenly. Now listen to me very carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you will determine whether Monday becomes your breakthrough or just another day you let slip through your fingers. You've been waiting for instructions, haven't you? Waiting for God to send you a 10-step plan, a detailed roadmap, a strategy session with bullet points and timelines. But that's not how divine alignment works. That's not how the Holy Spirit moves when He's repositioning you for something you couldn't orchestrate on your own. Here's what heaven is asking of you on Monday. And I need you to understand, these aren't suggestions. These are spiritual protocols that will determine whether you step into what's been prepared or step right past it. First, don't rush your conversations. I know that sounds simple, maybe even disappointing. You were expecting something more dramatic, more spectacular. But let me tell you why this matters more than you realize. On Monday, God is going to speak through the most ordinary moments. A phone call from someone you haven't heard from in months, a conversation at the grocery store, a comment from your grandchild that seems random but carries weight. Most people rush through these moments. They're thinking about what's next, what's for dinner, what's on the news. But you're going to be different. Because when God is repositioning pieces on the chessboard of your life, He doesn't announce it with trumpets. He whispers it through the mouths of people you'd normally dismiss. Proverbs 16:9 tells us, in their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Your steps on Monday aren't about where you're going, they're about who you're hearing. Every conversation is a potential divine appointment. Every voice carries the possibility of a message you've been waiting years to receive. But here's what terrifies me, what breaks my heart. How many of you have already missed divine appointments because you were too distracted to notice them? How many phone calls did you cut short because you were too busy? How many people did God send into your path with a word, with an answer, with a key, and you barely looked up from your screen? Monday is your chance to stop missing what heaven is delivering. Second, don't announce your changes. This is where most people blow it. The moment they feel something shifting in their spirit, they run to Facebook. They post about their breakthrough before it's even broken through. They announce their healing before the scar tissue has formed. They tell everyone what God is doing while He's still doing it. And the moment they announce it, the anointing leaks, the power dissipates, the enemy gets intel he was never supposed to have. Listen to what Jesus said in Matthew 6:6. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. There's a reason He told us to close the door. There's a reason sacred things happen in secret places. Because transformation requires incubation, and incubation requires silence. When Mary received the word that she would carry the Messiah, what did she do? Luke 1:29 says she was greatly troubled at His words and pondered what kind of greeting this might be. She pondered. She held it. She didn't run to the village square and announce what the angel had told her. You know why? Because some assignments are so sacred, so significant, that speaking about them prematurely is like opening the oven door while the bread is rising. You ruin what God is baking. On Monday, when you feel something shifting, when you sense a door opening, when you recognize an answered prayer manifesting, keep your mouth closed. Let God finish what He started without your commentary interrupting His work. Third, don't go back to old comforts. This is the one that will test you most, because Monday will feel uncertain, it will feel uncomfortable, and every fiber of your being will want to retreat to what's familiar. That old relationship that keeps you small, that old habit that numbs your pain, that old mindset that keeps you safe but stuck. But Exodus 14:14 declares with thunderous authority, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Be still. Not go backward. Not retreat. Not run back to Egypt because the wilderness feels too wide. Do you remember the Israelites? God delivered them from 400 years of slavery, parted the Red Sea, drowned their enemies. And what did they do the moment things got hard? They wanted to go back. Numbers 14:4 records their rebellion. We should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. Go back to slavery. Go back to bondage. Go back to what was killing them, because at least it was familiar. How many of you are one uncomfortable moment away from going back to what God delivered you from? How many of you will make it to Sunday night believing change is coming, only to wake up Monday morning and immediately reach for the same old comfort that's been keeping you captive? Your old life is a grave you've already been resurrected from. Don't climb back in. So here's what Monday requires: stillness. Sacred, uncomfortable, faith-filled stillness. Like holding a newborn, you don't shake it, you don't rush it, you just hold it and let life settle. Like waiting for the sun to rise, you can't force it, you can't hurry it, you just position yourself and watch glory break over the horizon. If you're willing to move differently this Monday, if you're ready to listen instead of talk, to hold instead of announce, to stay still instead of run backward, type it below right now: I'll be still. Because there's one mistake that cancels alignment faster than all the others combined. One error that will close Monday's door before it fully opens, and I'm about to name it. You know what breaks my heart right now? It's not the waiting you've endured. It's not even the doors that slammed in your face. What breaks my heart is that you've spent years believing you did something wrong. Listen to me, beloved. Every single time you tried to explain yourself before God revealed you, every time you forced a door open that heaven was holding shut, every time you rushed ahead because the silence felt unbearable, you weren't failing. You were learning the hardest lesson a chosen one ever has to master. The lesson of sacred timing. See, the enemy has convinced you that delay means denial, that if God really loved you, He would have moved faster, that if you were truly chosen, the path would have been clearer. But that's the lie that's kept you stuck in a cycle of second-guessing every move you make. Here's the truth that's going to shatter that prison. God doesn't reveal the plan before obedience. He reveals it through obedience. Think about Abraham. God said, "Leave your country, your people, your father's household, and go to the land I will show you." Genesis 12:1. Notice what God didn't say. He didn't give Abraham the address, didn't show him a map, didn't explain the route or the timeline or what he'd find when he got there. Just go, walk. Trust me in the dark. And Abraham went, not because he understood, but because he knew the voice. You've been waiting for understanding before you move. But Monday is asking you to move before you understand, to obey before you see, to trust the unfolding, even when the fog is so thick you can barely see your own hands in front of your face. Mark 4:26 tells us something that should stop you in your tracks. This is what the kingdom of God is like. A man scatters seed on the ground. Night and day, whether he sleeps or gets up, the seed sprouts and grows, though he does not know how. Did you catch that? He does not know how. The farmer doesn't understand the process. He can't see the roots spreading underground. He can't measure the cellular division happening in the darkness. But the seed doesn't need his understanding to grow. It just needs his obedience to plant it. What if everything you've been agonizing over? What if it's been growing while you slept? What if Monday isn't the beginning of your breakthrough, but the revealing of what's already happened in the unseen realm? You've been staring at the same soil for months, maybe years, seeing nothing but dirt. But underneath, oh beloved, underneath roots have been spreading. Strength has been building. Life has been preparing to burst through the surface in a way that will leave you breathless. The curtains are about to open, and when they do, you're going to see that every closed door wasn't rejection, it was protection. Every delayed answer wasn't God ignoring you, it was God positioning you. Every moment you felt forgotten was actually the moment you were being prepared for something your younger self couldn't have handled. This is why you had to wait. This is why the harvest couldn't come sooner. Because if God had given you what you wanted when you wanted it, you would have been crushed by the weight of a blessing you weren't ready to steward. But now you've been refined by the waiting, strengthened by the silence, matured by the mystery. And Monday is when heaven says, "You're ready, the soil has done its work. It's time for the harvest to appear." Here's what I need you to understand with every fiber of your being. You didn't miss anything. Not one single thing. Every detour was divine direction. Every setback was set up. Every time you thought you were falling behind, you were actually being held back, protected from settling for less than what God had prepared. The light is breaking through the fog right now. Can you feel it? That shift in the atmosphere? That knowing that something has changed even though everything looks the same? That's not wishful thinking, chosen one. That's prophetic confirmation that what was hidden is about to be revealed. But here's the final truth that will determine everything. You have to stop interfering. You have to stop trying to figure it out, force it open, make it make sense. You have to let Monday unfold the way heaven designed it, not the way your anxiety demands it. God reveals after obedience, not before. And your obedience on Monday isn't doing something dramatic. It's trusting something sacred. It's believing that the same God who scattered the seed is faithful to bring the harvest, even when you don't know how. So, let me ask you this, and I want you to answer from the deepest place in your spirit. Are you ready to stop explaining yourself and start trusting the unfolding? Are you ready to believe that what's coming on Monday has been growing in the dark all along? If you are, if you're finally ready to let God be God and stop playing director of your own deliverance, then type it below right now. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just declare it. I won't interfere. Because what happens next requires your surrender, not your strategy. And the moment you release control is the moment heaven takes over. The harvest is here, beloved. The question is, will you let it come up in its time, or will you keep digging up the seed to check if it's growing? You want to know what's been eating at you for the last 5, 10, maybe 20 years? It's not that God hasn't answered your prayers, it's that He hasn't explained His silence. You've been on your knees begging for clarity. God, just tell me why. Why did my spouse leave? Why did the money run out? Why did my children stop calling? Why did you let me get this far just to watch everything fall apart? And the heavens stay quiet. Not cruel, just quiet. And that silence? It's been killing you, hasn't it? Let me tell you something that might shake you to your core. God's refusal to explain himself isn't neglect, it's strategy. It's not abandonment. It's preparation for what you can't yet handle. See, we've been taught that a good father explains everything. That love means transparency. That if God really cared, he'd sit us down like children and walk us through every decision, every detour, every devastating delay. But that's not how the Almighty operates. And there's a reason. Isaiah 55:8-9 cuts straight to it. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. You've been demanding an explanation from someone whose mind operates on a level you literally cannot comprehend. It's like a 2-year-old demanding to know why the doctor is about to perform surgery. The child doesn't have the capacity to understand germ theory, anesthesia, or the necessity of cutting to heal. All they know is fear. All they feel is pain. But the surgeon doesn't stop the procedure to explain, because explanation in that moment would create more terror, not less. Here's what nobody told you about faith. God doesn't withhold explanations because he doesn't care. He withholds them because premature understanding would destroy what he's building. Think about it. If God had told Abraham the full plan, that he'd have to wait 25 years for Isaac, that he'd be asked to sacrifice that same son on an altar, that his descendants would spend 400 years in slavery before the promise fully unfolded, would Abraham have said yes on day one? Or would the weight of knowing have crushed him before the journey even began? Jesus himself said it in John 16:12. I have yet many things to say unto you, but ye cannot bear them now. Even the Son of God looked at his own disciples, men who walked with him daily, and said, You're not ready for the full truth yet. Not because they were failures, because the human soul can only carry what it's been conditioned to hold. You've been treating God's silence like punishment when it's actually protection. You've been interpreting his mystery as distance when it's actually intimacy at a level your current understanding can't access. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. What if the very thing you've been crying out for God to explain is the exact thing that, if explained too early, would have made you abort the mission? What if knowing the full cost up front would have sent you running? What if seeing the complete timeline would have convinced you that you're not strong enough, not faithful enough, not equipped enough? What if God's silence has been the only thing keeping you in position for the breakthrough that's been building behind the scenes? A pilot doesn't announce every pocket of turbulence before it hits. Why? Because passengers would panic before there's any real danger. A surgeon doesn't explain every micro-decision during the operation. Why? Because the patient under anesthesia can't process the information, and consciousness during surgery would cause trauma, not clarity. And a father doesn't argue with a child who's being carried away from danger. He just moves. God has been moving you, chosen one, and you've been so busy demanding explanations that you haven't noticed he's been positioning you the entire time. Here's the shift that needs to happen in your spirit right now. You've been operating on faith for outcomes. God, if you just tell me how this ends, I'll trust you. But that's not faith. That's negotiation. Real faith, the kind that moves mountains, the kind that parts seas, the kind that raises the dead, that's faith for trust. God, I don't understand. I can't see. I'm terrified. But I'm staying. The Israelites stood at the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army closing in from behind and an impossible wall of water in front. And Moses didn't get a 3-point sermon explaining hydrodynamics and divine timing. He got one sentence: stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. No explanation, just instruction. And when they obeyed without understanding, the sea split. You're standing at your Red Sea right now, Behind you is everything that's been chasing you: debt, disease, disappointment, despair. In front of you is something that looks impossible, and you're waiting for God to explain the plan before you take the step. But Monday is coming. And Monday doesn't require your understanding. Monday requires your obedience. There's one reason, just one, that explanations would have destroyed what God is preparing for you. And you're about to discover what happens when trust replaces the need to know. Because the silence you've been resenting, it's about to break. But not with explanations, with demonstrations. You thought the hardest part was saying yes to God. You thought once you obeyed, once you stepped out in faith, once you made the sacrifice, everything would get easier. That the clouds would part, the path would clear, and heaven would roll out confirmation after confirmation. But then something happened that nobody warned you about. The reassurance stopped. The signs went silent. The confirmations dried up. And you found yourself standing in obedience completely alone, wondering if you heard God correctly in the first place. Dear chosen one, welcome to the second test, the test that comes after obedience. The trial that arrives after you've already proven your faith. This is where Abraham stood on Mount Moriah with the knife raised. This is where Moses wandered 40 years after the burning bush. This is where Jesus fasted in the wilderness immediately after heaven declared, "This is my beloved Son." You see, the first test was simple: will you obey? But the second test cuts deeper. Will you keep going without reassurance? Think about Abraham for a moment. God told him to sacrifice Isaac, the son of promise, the child of miracle, the only heir to everything God had sworn. And Abraham obeyed. He built the altar, he bound his son, he raised the knife. But here's what shakes me to my core. God didn't stop him at the first step. He didn't interrupt him halfway up the mountain. Abraham had to walk all the way to the edge of the unthinkable before heaven spoke again. Genesis 22:11 tells us, "The angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, 'Abraham, Abraham.'" But notice when the angel called. Not at the beginning of the journey, not in the middle. At the final moment, after Abraham had proven he would follow through even in terrifying silence. Why? Because God tests certainty after obedience, not before. Let me ask you something that might sting. How many times have you started strong, stepped out in faith, moved when God said move, only to stop halfway because the confirmation didn't come fast enough? How many dreams did you abandon because heaven went quiet? How many callings did you walk away from because God didn't provide instant validation? You're 72, 78, 83 years old, and you've learned to trust God through decades of faithfulness. But this season, this Monday that's approaching, it's different, because you've already said yes. You've already made the commitment. You've already stepped into what God asked you to do. And now, right now, you're standing in the most dangerous place a believer can stand, the space between promise and proof. It's like driving through the desert and your GPS loses signal. The road is still there, your destination hasn't changed, but the voice that was guiding you? Silent. And you have to decide. Do I keep driving, or do I turn back because I can't see the next turn? Or picture this. You're at a traffic light, but the power's out. No red, no green, no yellow, just darkness. And you have to make a choice with no external guidance. Do I go, or do I wait forever? That's where you are right now, chosen one. And Monday is the moment when God reveals whether you've been driving by His voice or by your need for constant confirmation. Look at Jesus in Matthew 4:1. The chapter opens with these words. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Wait, then? Then when? Immediately after his baptism. Right after the heavens opened, right after the Father's voice boomed, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." Heaven confirmed his identity and then sent him into silence, into hunger, into 40 days of testing, where the only voices he heard were the enemy's lies and his own prayers. Why would God do that? Why confirm and then withdraw? Because the second test isn't about if you believe, It's about how deeply you believe. Anyone can have faith when the miracles are flowing. Anyone can praise when the blessings are obvious. Anyone can trust when the bank account is full and the bills are paid and the doctor gives a good report. But what about when the manna stops? What about when the Red Sea doesn't part? What about when you're doing everything right and everything still feels wrong? The tree that survives the drought isn't the one with shallow roots reaching for surface water. It's the one that pushed deep into the ground long before the dry season came. You see the branches above, but you don't see the roots below, roots that went down 10, 15, 20 feet when water was still plentiful, preparing for the day when the rain would stop. You've been putting down roots, beloved. Every prayer in the dark, every act of faithfulness when no one was watching. Every morning you got up and trusted God, even when your circumstances screamed otherwise. Those weren't wasted days. Those were root systems going deep. And now, right now, you're in the drought. The test after the test, the silence after the calling, the wilderness after the confirmation. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. This silence isn't God's absence, it's God's confidence. He's not holding back because he doesn't trust you. He's stepping back because he does. He's watching to see if you'll keep going without the reassurance, because what's coming on Monday requires someone who doesn't need their hand held at every turn. Moses led 2 million people through a desert for 40 years. Do you think God spoke audibly every single day? No. There were long stretches of silence, long seasons of just walking, trusting, obeying. But Moses kept going, and when they finally reached the promised land, it wasn't because Moses had perfect clarity at every step. It was because he had deep certainty about the one who called him. So let me ask you directly, and I want you to feel the weight of this question in your chest right now. If God never spoke another word to you after Monday, if heaven went completely silent for the rest of your life, would you still trust him? Would you still follow? Would you still believe? Because that's the second test. And Monday is when God finds out who passes. If this feels uncomfortably accurate, if something in your spirit is screaming, "Yes, this is me," then don't scroll past this moment. Type it below, right now, "I won't turn back." Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly why this test is happening now, and what God is preparing you for on the other side of this silence. You feel it, don't you? That strange nakedness in your spirit. Like someone just pulled back a curtain you didn't even know was there, and suddenly you're standing in a room full of light with nowhere to hide. Your hands are trembling just a little bit, your chest feels tight, and there's this question burning in the back of your mind that you're almost afraid to ask out loud. What if I've been wrong about everything? Listen to me, beloved. That vulnerability you're feeling right now, that sense of being stripped bare before God and yourself, that's not condemnation, that's consecration. You're not falling apart. You're finally coming together. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been wearing armor you didn't choose. Armor made of other people's expectations. Armor forged from disappointments you survived by becoming hard. Armor built from decades of "I'm fine" when you were dying inside, "I can handle it" when you were drowning, "It doesn't bother me" when it was killing you slowly. And now, right now, in this sacred moment, God is removing that armor. Not to shame you, to crown you. But first, the old protection has to go. Think about Genesis chapter 3. Adam and Eve walked in the garden, completely naked, completely unashamed. But the moment they sinned, verse 7 says, "Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked." For the first time, they felt exposed, vulnerable. They tried to cover themselves with fig leaves, with their own solutions, their own protection. But God had something better. He made them garments of skin, real covering, divine covering. But first, they had to face their nakedness. You're in that in-between moment right now. The fig leaves of self-protection have been stripped away, but you haven't received your royal garments yet, and it feels terrifying, doesn't it? It feels like dying, because it is dying. The old you is dying. And death, even necessary death, even holy death, is never comfortable. Here's what you need to understand. That feeling of exposure isn't proof you're doing something wrong. It's proof you're being positioned for something right. You can't be clothed in new authority while you're still wearing old armor. The snake can't grow until it sheds its skin. And right now, chosen one, you're shedding. 2 Corinthians 12-9 records the most powerful words Jesus ever spoke to Paul. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness, not despite your weakness. In your weakness, your vulnerability isn't your liability, it's your leverage. But I know what you're thinking. I'm too old to feel this exposed. I should have it all figured out by now. People my age are supposed to be wise, settled, confident. Instead, I feel like a child again, scared, uncertain, questioning everything I thought I knew. Let me tell you something that's going to rock your world. That childlike vulnerability, that's exactly what Jesus was talking about in Matthew 18:3 when he said, "Unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." You're not regressing. You're progressing into the very posture God requires for your next level. Think about a house in the middle of renovation, walls ripped open, floors torn up, dust everywhere. It looks worse than it did before the work started, doesn't it? Someone walking by might think, "What a disaster, they should have left it alone." But the homeowner knows something the passerby doesn't. This mess is temporary. This exposure is necessary. You can't install new wiring without opening the walls. You can't lay new foundation without excavating the old. You are that house right now. And Monday is when the master builder starts installing what he's been preparing while you've been exposed. But here's the part that makes most people turn back. Here's where the majority quit and try to put their old armor back on. They can't stand the feeling of vulnerability long enough to receive what's coming. They'd rather be safe than transformed. They'd rather be protected than promoted. They'd rather hide behind familiar walls than stand naked before God and let Him rebuild them from the inside out. Don't you dare be one of them. You know why this feels so intense? Because you're not just being exposed to yourself. You're being exposed to your destiny. And destiny always sees you before you're ready to be seen. It always calls you forward before you feel prepared. It always demands vulnerability before it grants authority. Every king in Scripture had to be stripped before being crowned. Jesus was stripped of his garments before he wore the crown, even if it was thorns first, glory later. Exposure is proof you're no longer hidden from your destiny. You've been in the cave too long. You've been in the wilderness too long. You've been in the shadows too long. And God is saying, enough. Come out, stand in the light. Let me show the world what I've been building in secret. That nakedness you feel, it's holy ground. That vulnerability, it's sacred soil. That sense of being utterly seen, that's intimacy with the divine you've been crying out for your entire life. But I need to warn you about what happens next. Because Monday isn't just about exposure. Monday is about exchange. And what God wants to exchange in your life will require you to let go of something you've been gripping for decades. The question is, are your hands open, or are they still clenched around what's already dead? You know what nobody tells you about obedience? Nobody warns you about what comes after you say yes to God. They don't prepare you for the silence that follows your surrender, the emptiness that greets your faithfulness, the cruel, crushing weight of waiting when you've already done everything right. You obeyed, you said yes, you walked away from what was comfortable and stepped into what He called you to do, and then nothing. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, months became years, and now you're sitting there at 70, at 80, wondering if you heard Him wrong, wondering if your obedience was just foolishness dressed up in faith. Let me tell you something that's going to shatter every lie the enemy has whispered in your ear during this waiting season. The wait after obedience is not punishment, it's preparation for your coronation. Think about David, 17 years old when Samuel poured that oil over his head. 17. The prophet of God himself declared, "This is the king." But what happened next? Did David walk straight into the palace? Did he sit on the throne the next morning? No, beloved. He went back to the sheep, back to the fields, back to obscurity, then to the battlefield, then to the fugitive caves, then to exile, year after year after year, running from the very throne that God had already promised him, hunted like an animal, betrayed by those he trusted, sleeping in holes in the ground while Saul slept in a palace that should have been his. Can you imagine what those years felt like? Can you picture David lying in that cave at night, touching his head where the oil had dried, wondering if he'd imagined the whole thing, wondering if God had changed his mind, wondering if obedience was supposed to feel this much like abandonment? But here's what David didn't know in those caves. Here's what you don't see when you're in the darkness between promise and fulfillment. God wasn't making him wait because he forgot about him. God was making him wait because the throne David was walking toward required a king that 17-year-old David wasn't yet ready to become. The delay wasn't denial. It was development. Every night David spent in that cave, his character was being forged. Every moment he could have killed Saul, but chose mercy instead. His heart was being tested. Every tear he cried in solitude, his dependence on God was being deepened. The crown was already his. But the man who could carry that crown without it crushing him, that man was being built in the waiting. James 1:12 cuts straight to the bone. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Did you catch that? The crown comes after the test, not before, not during, after. Your crown is sitting in a box right now, beloved. It's already been made. Your name is already engraved on it. But God, in his infinite wisdom, knows something you don't. He knows that if he gave you that crown today, before the refinement is complete, before the testing has done its work, the weight of it would break your neck. So he makes you wait. Not because he doesn't love you, because he does. Think about bread rising in the dark. You mix the ingredients, you knead the dough, you shape it with your hands, and then what do? You put it in a dark place. You cover it, you walk away, and for hours nothing seems to be happening. If you didn't know better, you'd think the bread was just sitting there, forgotten, wasted. But something miraculous is happening in that darkness. The yeast is working, the dough is expanding, the structure is forming. And when you finally pull that cloth back, when you finally see what the darkness has produced, you realize the waiting wasn't emptiness, it was transformation. You've been rising in the dark, chosen one, and Monday is when the cloth gets pulled back. Romans 8:18 declares with absolute authority, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us." Paul isn't saying your suffering doesn't hurt. He's saying the glory coming is so massive, so overwhelming, so far beyond what you've endured, that when you see it, when you finally step into what God has been preparing, you'll understand why the wait had to be this long. The sun doesn't apologize for rising slowly. It doesn't rush to the horizon just because you're tired of the dark. It moves at the exact pace required for the earth to turn, for the light to spread, for the new day to break properly. And right now, your sun is one breath away from cresting the horizon. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Here's the truth that will set you free from the torment of thinking you've been forgotten. Delay after obedience is not denial. It is protection from collapse. If God had given you everything you asked for when you first asked for it, you would have self-destructed. The blessing you've been begging for requires a version of you that didn't exist 3 years ago. The door you've been pounding on needs a you who can walk through it without being destroyed by what's on the other side. God has been protecting you from the very thing you thought he was withholding. And on Monday, you're going to see why, if you're still here. If, after everything hell has thrown at you, every reason to quit, every excuse to walk away, if you're still standing in faith, still believing when it makes no sense, still trusting when the evidence says give up, then type it right now. Let heaven hear you. Let the enemy see that he failed. Type, still faithful, because your faithfulness in the waiting is about to be crowned with a glory you cannot yet imagine. And Monday? Monday is Coronation Day. You know what terrifies me more than anything else? It's not that people miss their moment. It's that they stand right at the threshold of breakthrough and choose to turn back because the unfamiliar feels more dangerous than the prison they've known for decades. Let me tell you something that's going to cut deep, chosen one. Right now, as you're hearing my voice, you're standing at a doorway. God has spent years, maybe your entire lifetime, maneuvering you into position for what unfolds on Monday. But here's the brutal truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most people will sabotage their own deliverance at the last second. Why? Because they make 3 fatal mistakes. The first mistake is this: they try to explain themselves too soon. You feel that stirring in your spirit right now, don't you? That restlessness, that sense that something monumental is shifting in the invisible realm, and already part of you wants to rationalize it away. It's just my emotions. I'm being dramatic. This happens every time I watch these videos. Stop it, right there. Stop trying to make sense of what God is doing before he's finished doing it. Remember Saul in 1 Samuel chapter 13? He was told to wait 7 days for the prophet Samuel. 7 days. But on the 7th day, when Samuel hadn't arrived yet, Saul got nervous. The people were scattering, the enemy was gathering. So he took matters into his own hands and offered the sacrifice himself, something only the prophet was authorized to do. Samuel showed up minutes later. Minutes. And you know what he told Saul? You have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God. For now the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom shall not continue. One moment of impatience, one act of trying to explain himself, justify himself, rescue himself before God's timing was complete. And it cost Saul everything. How many of you are about to do the same thing? How many of you are standing at day 6.5 and you're already reaching for solutions? Already calling people to explain what you're feeling? Already trying to fix what God is in the process of transforming? Don't you dare. Not this time. Let Monday arrive without your interference. The second mistake is even more insidious. They run back to what's familiar when God calls them forward into the unknown. You've been praying for change for how long? 20 years? 30? 50? You've begged God to open new doors, to shift your circumstances, to deliver you from the same patterns that have held your family captive for generations. And now, right now, that door is creaking open. You can feel it. You sense it in your bones. But here's what's about to happen. The moment you step toward it, everything familiar is going to scream at you to come back. That old job that underpaid and undervalued you, it's going to suddenly look stable. That toxic relationship you finally escaped. You're going to remember the good moments and forget the poison. Genesis 19 tells us about Lot's wife. The angels literally grabbed Lot's family by the hand and dragged them out of Sodom before God's judgment fell. They were given one command: escape for your life. Do not look behind you. One command. But Lot's wife looked back. Just one glance over her shoulder at the city she was leaving, and she became a pillar of salt, frozen forever between two worlds, unable to go back, unwilling to move forward. Jesus himself warned us in Luke 17:32, remember Lot's wife. 3 words. That's how serious this is. Don't romanticize what God is rescuing you from. Don't negotiate with the past when your future is demanding your full attention. What are you looking back at right now? What familiar prison are you considering returning to simply because the promised land requires more faith than you think you have? I need you to hear me. That door behind you, the one you keep glancing at, God is about to lock it permanently, not to punish you, to protect you. Because if it stays open, you'll crawl back through it every time His call gets uncomfortable. The third mistake is the deadliest. They demand another sign when God has already given clear instruction. You want to know why you're stuck. It's not because God hasn't spoken, it's because you keep asking him to repeat himself in a different language, hoping the answer will change. How many confirmations do you need? How many fleeces do you have to lay out? How many sermons have to speak directly to your situation before you finally obey what you already know God told you to do? Gideon did this. Judges chapter 6. God called him a mighty warrior and commissioned him to save Israel. But Gideon kept asking for signs. A wet fleece and dry ground, then a dry fleece and wet ground. God graciously gave him what he asked for, but can you imagine how much time Gideon wasted in disobedience while waiting for another confirmation? Monday is coming, whether you believe it or not. The train doesn't wait for passengers who are still debating whether they should board. The door doesn't stay open for people who are still looking back at where they came from. Here's what God is revealing last, and it will explain everything, but only if you stay. Only if you resist the urge to explain yourself prematurely. Only if you stop reaching for the familiar when he's offering you the miraculous. Only if you quit demanding signs and start walking in the revelation you already have. Because what unfolds on Monday isn't just about you receiving something new. It's about you releasing something old. And the hardest part of any deliverance isn't the bondage you're leaving, it's the identity you've built around that bondage that you now have to bury. So I'm asking you point blank, are you going to be like Saul, rushing ahead in fear? Are you going to be like Lot's wife, looking back in longing? Are you going to be like Gideon, stalling with endless questions? Or are you finally going to trust that the God who brought you this far knows exactly what he's doing? Because Monday is the day everything you've been waiting for collides with everything you've been avoiding. And what you choose in the space between now and then will determine whether you walk through that door or become a monument to what could have been. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to remember 3 things that will anchor your soul as Monday approaches. First, this message didn't find you by accident. The divine interruption you experienced wasn't random, it was heaven's appointment with your destiny. Second, the warnings I've shared aren't meant to frighten you, but to fortify you. God is protecting what he's about to release in your life. And third, Monday isn't just another day on the calendar, it's a threshold, a hinge point between what was and what's about to be. But here's what I need you to understand with absolute certainty. You are not walking toward Monday alone. Even when it feels like you're the only one who hears this call, the only one carrying this weight, the only one standing at this threshold, you're not. The God who orchestrated this moment is still working in your life right now. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you at the doorway. He's been preparing you for decades. And what unfolds on Monday is the culmination of prayers you forgot you prayed, tears you thought he didn't see, and faithfulness he's been recording in heaven's ledger. And beyond God's presence, you have something beautiful right here. Look at these comments. Feel these spirits connecting. You're surrounded by a community of chosen ones who understand your struggle because they're living it too. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family in the spirit, ready to stand with you, pray with you, and remind you that you're never alone in this calling. So let me ask you this one final question, and I want you to let it settle deep in your heart. When Monday arrives, will you step through the door God has opened, or will you spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been? Before I release you, join me in prayer. Wherever you are right now, sitting in your living room, lying in your bed, driving in your car, I want you to receive these words as if I'm placing my hand on your shoulder, speaking directly over your life. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has heard this message today. Lord, you know their names, you see their struggles, you feel the weight they've been carrying. Tonight, I pray that you would give them supernatural peace that surpasses all understanding. Calm every anxious thought, silence every voice of doubt. Remind them that you are faithful, you are present, and you have not forgotten them. God, as Monday approaches, I pray for divine courage. Give them strength to step forward when fear screams to retreat. Give them wisdom to discern your voice above the noise. Give them grace to release what's familiar and embrace what you've prepared. Open doors that no man can shut. Close doors that would lead them back into bondage. Protect them from second-guessing, from looking back, from demanding signs when you've already given clear direction. Let them walk in the confidence that their steps are ordered by you. Father, bless their families, their health, their finances, their peace of mind. Surround them with people who will speak life, not doubt. Give them dreams and visions that confirm what you're doing. And most of all, let them feel your presence so powerfully that they never question whether you're still working in their lives. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer over every person listening. Let Monday be the day everything changes. Amen. Now, beloved, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what God spoke to your heart today. Share what you're believing Him for as Monday approaches. Ask your questions. This community will surround you with prayer and encouragement. Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And if this message touched your soul, please share it. There's someone in your life right now, a friend, a family member, a neighbor, who needs to know they're not alone, that their struggle has purpose, that Monday is coming for them too. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. You're not just subscribing to content, you're joining a movement of chosen ones who refuse to give up, who believe God is still speaking, who know their best days aren't behind them but ahead of them. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart. Thank you for being brave enough to believe that maybe, just maybe, your Monday miracle is already in motion. Until we meet again, walk in faith, walk in power, walk in the unshakable knowledge that you are chosen, you are loved, and you are never alone. God bless you mightily.